Welcome to YLC, the Young Leaders Committee that promotes and grows youth leadership that ensures the future leaders lead from today by educating and inspiring them to soar higher and higher.
You are welcome to Young Leaders Committee, the leadership channel for growing and supporting leaders in all spheres of life. Our last session was on effective communication, and we are moving from there to establishing culture in organizations. Establishing culture in organizations. Culture exists beyond our communities or our traditional settings. This statement is important because sometimes when we talk of culture, people think of tradition way back in their communities. No, it's more than that. What is culture? Culture is a way of life of a particular society which encompasses shared values, beliefs, practices, artifacts of the group of people. It's a complex system that influences how individuals think, behave, and interpret the world around them. The statement, way of life of a people, appears innocent, but could be the basis for cultural conflicts. Conflicts may ensue when new entrants into organizations, either consciously or otherwise, evaluate the new cultures with respect to theirs. And very often, many leaders will consider the culture they are from, the culture they are familiar with, as better or superior, and might be tempted to call for changes. Please don't jump into changes. Good leaders should be wary of this and restrain themselves from such actions. Cultures change. Cultures evolve. Culture is dynamic. But leaders must study new cultures over a considerable time and as objectively as possible before initiating changes. Does the prevailing culture facilitate operational process? That's one question to ask. Second question to ask, does it serve the people well? And we want to counsel. Please, as a leader in a new organization or environment, stand outside the box and compare your new ways with extant practices before contemplating a change. Let's now consider the key elements of culture. And the intention here is to make the concept clearer or better understood so that we can be on the same page and for more effective application. Culture consists of 1, shared values and beliefs. The focus here is about what is important, what is right and wrong. Culture consists of practices and customs. These are ways of doing things established within a society, including rituals, traditions, and social norms. Culture consists of artifacts and material culture. These are the physical objects and creations of a culture, such as art, technology, and tools. Culture also consists of language. This shapes how people communicate, think, and understand the world in which they are. Culture consists of learning and transmission. Culture is usually developed, learned, and passed on through interaction with other members of the society and through socialization. So that takes us to what we call levels of culture. Culture has levels. Culture exists at various levels. It begins at the personal level. I will call those ones personal principles, practices, perceptions, and so on. And then from there, it progresses to the very next one, which is family culture. This is often dominated and determined by the parents, even though with the influence of the children, depending on how much latitude the parents give to the children. From there, we proceed to the next level, societal culture. This refers to the culture of the place where we live and transact business. It's often shaped by local geography, history, or ethnicity. And then the next one is organizational culture. This is the place of our interest in this video. Organizational culture is usually a formal setting, which often sets the standards that leaders have to comply with. An organization can have its own culture. We're going to look more deeply into that as we go on. And then we have national culture. This is the culture of a particular nation or country in which your own organization exists. And that's why it's important. Let's now look at why is culture important? Why do we need to study or talk about culture? Culture is an important element in life and in society. Leaders need therefore to be aware and sensitive to various cultures, especially their own cultures. When leaders fail to realize that whether at personal or some other level, cultures exist and generally influence what they do, how they behave, and so on, they are likely to demand more than they should. And that's one reason why we need to focus on culture. And then we want to add that culture is important because it provides identity and meaning. This is because it helps individuals to understand their place in the world and gives them a sense of belonging. Culture is important because it shapes behavior and interpretation. Cultural norms and values influence how individuals behave and interpret the actions of others. Culture is a dynamic element that shapes human lives in countless ways. Why is culture important? Because it facilitates social cohesion. People with identical values and beliefs flock together faster. This is because culture creates a sense of unity and cooperation. Another reason why culture is important is because it promotes understanding and dialogue. Learning about different cultures can foster empathy and understanding between people from different backgrounds. Having laid this general foundation, we now want to look at organizational culture. This is the primary place of interest in this video. What is organizational culture? Organizational culture refers to the shared values, beliefs, assumptions that influence how individuals and teams within an organization, how they behave and how they interact. It includes how decisions should be made and how work activities should be carried out. It shapes the overall personality or outlook of the organization and impacts everything from employee engagement and retention to its reputation and success. Organizational culture, therefore, entails the following. Let's look at them. 1. Shared values. what the organization considers important and strives to uphold. 2, beliefs, what the organization believes or holds to be true about itself, its customers, and the world in which they operate. 3, assumptions. These are the underlying principles or propositions that guide actions and decisions. 4, norms and practices. These are the unwritten rules and behaviors that are considered acceptable within the organization. Next is the language and the symbols used by the organization. These describe the way the organization communicates, both formally and informally, through words, gestures, and symbols. It speaks of their retaining and upholding organizational style of communicating. You need to know it. Then, histories and traditions of the organization. These are the narratives and rituals that reflect the organization's past and the organization's identity. You need to be familiar with this so that you can understand the organization in which you're operating. Let's look at the importance of organizational culture. Among other reasons, among other significant things we can point to, organizational culture is important because of employee engagement and satisfaction. What do we mean? A positive and supportive culture can lead to higher levels of employee engagement and job satisfaction. It guides employment and determines who is employed. The culture of an organization will determine who is employed. Again, attracting and retaining talents. A strong culture can make an organization more attractive to potential employees and help retain current employees. Number 3 reason, driving performance. A culture that aligns with the organization's goals and values can help drive performance and achieve strategic objectives. Why is organizational culture important? For facilitating change. A strong culture can help employees embrace change and navigate challenges more effectively. For building trust and collaboration. A culture that values trust and collaboration can foster a more positive and productive work environment. Another significance of organizational culture is that it can help to avert loss of vision and drifting away from their own mission statement and the direction they have set for themselves to go. A final significance we want to consider of organizational culture is that it keeps the organization going on, especially when everyone knows, accepts, and works by the culture of that organization. Now, organizational culture also has levels. We saw that when we looked at culture in general. Again, it begins at the personal level. Personal culture, such as physical layout, dress code, tastes, and other elements that can be considered. From there, we proceed to the theme. The team is a smaller body in the organization, and the team also has its culture, how the team approaches its tasks, stated principles and beliefs that it claims to uphold. These make up the team culture. From team, we progress to departmental culture. A department may have its own culture. This includes the underlying beliefs and assumptions that guide behavior and decisions or decision making. If it's a very big and large organization, you may have divisions or sections, whatever the terminology may be, depending on how large the organization is. If this level exists, they are likely to have their own culture. This will be largely similar to that of departments, but less specific. Then we have organizational culture. Remember, we started from the individual to the team to the department to the division, and now the entire organization. This is a mix of laid down policies, long time practices, and the influences the units exert upon the organization. And beyond that, we have societal culture, which might affect or influence the culture of the organization. The organization is in a society. And so even where they have their own culture, the culture could be influenced or affected either positively or negatively by the prevailing culture in that society. How then can we create a positive work culture? This is important. This is important. Leaders need to push deliberately and intentionally for productive cultures. In your organization, you need to push deliberately and intentionally for productive culture, especially if you wish to avoid the emergence of culture that you will not appreciate or that is likely to work against the vision and pattern of your organization. Leaders are therefore advised to discover, deliberate on, and develop appropriate cultures that could help the organizations to realize their objectives. The objectives of your organization is closely tied to the culture of your organization. Cultures may enhance or militate against the state of affairs in an organization and the level of performance in the organization. And that's why you need to know about the culture of your organization. Cultures could be created in two major ways. Cultures could be created directly via legislation or indirectly through practices and norms that develop over time. To cultivate a positive workplace culture demands certain things. We're going to mention them very briefly. One, communication and transparency. And that requires that you establish and operate clear communication channels. Promote open and honest communication and encourage and utilize regular feedback. Number two, employee well-being and recognition. This demands that you prioritize employee needs, that you recognize and reward achievements, and also encourage workplace balance, as well as promote employee well-being. Number three, collaboration and inclusion. Foster a collaborative environment. Promote diversity and inclusivity. Embrace diversity of thought. Embrace diversity of personalities and reactions. Number four, leadership and values. You need to look at leadership and values to build a positive organizational culture. Leadership and values are important. Lead by example. Lead by example. Walk your talk. Establish company values or organizational values. Ensure trust and respect in your organization. It's vital. Trust and respect are very important to build a positive organizational culture. And number 5, other important considerations are there. Set clear goals. Let the organization be known for setting goals, and goals that are very clear. As much as possible, be flexible. You see, there is a balance between being flexible and being firm. Know when each is most needed. Have some fun. Celebrate little successes. Seek and act on feedback. And then you will grow a positive organizational culture. Rather than introduce organizational culture from the top, we counsel that you do so more from the bottom of the hierarchy. That is, more from the people you lead than from you, the leaders. A lot of legislation can frustrate some other people in the organization. Get their inputs. Get them to initiate things and let them form the culture of your organization. Let's now look at communicating cultural values and expectations. How do we communicate cultural values? How do we communicate cultural expectations in an organization? And some of the means are: 1, exemplary leadership. We want to emphasize that. Exemplary leadership is one way of communicating cultural values. Number 2, intentional institutional change. Intentional institutional change. And number 3, appeal to individuals in the organization. Leadership models propagate less bossy attitudes that leadership should consider. Leadership models propagate less bossy attitudes that leaders should consider. Thank you very much for being with us. Did you pick anything new? Do you disagree with any thought expressed here? Is there something you would like us to take note of? Please send them to the comment section or via our email address displayed on the screen. Our international forum has started and activities are already going on. We look forward to meeting you there. Thank you. See you at the next episode.